The bedtime routine was the hardest part of Yuna's job. Valorny cubs needed very specific things to fall asleep. The room had to have dim blue light, like the twilight on their home planet. There had to be soft sounds playing, recordings of forests and gentle wind and flowing water. And most importantly, there had to be a guardian standing at the door, watching over them until they fell asleep. Yuna had learned all of this from the ship's database. She had studied Valorny culture and Valorny biology and Valorny psychology. She had read everything she could find about raising Valorny children. But reading about something and doing it were very different things. Every night, she would dim the lights to the perfect shade of blue. She would turn on the sound system and let the forest sounds fill the room. She would help the 3 cubs settle into their nests, which were like beds made of soft fabric piled together. And then she would stand at the door and wait. It usually took about an hour. The cubs would shift and turn and whisper to each other. Slowly, one by one, they would fall asleep. Myra always went first. She was the oldest and the most tired. Kel took longer because he liked to look around the room and check for danger. And Bryn was always last because he was small and scared and needed the most time to feel safe. On this particular night, something went wrong. Yuna pressed the button to start the forest sounds, but nothing happened. She pressed it again. Still nothing. The sound system had broken. What is happening? Myra asked, her ears standing up straight. The sounds are not working, Yuna said. I will try to fix it. She spent 10 minutes looking at the machine and pressing different buttons, but she could not make it work. The ship's repair team would not be available until morning. There was nothing she could do. The cubs grew restless. Without the familiar sounds of their homeworld, they could not relax. Kel started pacing around his nest, his eyes wide and nervous. Mira kept looking at the door, like she expected something bad to come through it. And Bryn, little Bryn, began to cry. It was not loud crying. Valorny cubs did not cry loudly because loud sounds attracted predators. It was soft, sad whimpering, the sound of a child who felt lost and alone and frightened. Yuna felt her heart break. She had spent weeks building trust with these children. She could not let one broken machine destroy all of that. Without thinking, she walked to Bryn's nest and sat down on the edge. The tiny cub looked up at her with wet eyes, his whole body shaking with small sobs. It is okay, Yuna said softly. I am here. You are safe. She placed her hand gently on his back. His fur was so soft, like touching a cloud. She could feel his small body trembling under her palm. And then, without planning it, without even thinking about it, she began to tap pat dash pat, pat pat, pat dash pat dot. It was a simple rhythm. Slow and steady, like a heartbeat. It was something her mother had done for her when she was small and scared. It was something her grandmother had done for her mother. It was something Korean parents had been doing for their children for hundreds and hundreds of years. Bryn's crying stopped. He blinked up at Yuna with surprise in his eyes. The tapping continued, gentle and constant against his small back. Pat, 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 pat. Yuna began to hum. It was an old song, a lullaby her grandmother used to sing. The words were Korean, but she did not sing the words. She just hummed the melody, soft and low and warm. Bryn's eyes began to close. His breathing slowed down. His small heart, which had been racing with fear, began to beat slower and slower until it matched the rhythm of Yuna's tapping. He fell asleep. Yuna stayed very still for a moment, making sure he was truly sleeping. Then she carefully moved to Kel's nest. The brown cub was watching her with wide eyes. He had seen what she did to Bryn. He had seen the crying stop and the sleep come. He did not understand it, but he wanted it. Can you do that for me too? He whispered. Yuna smiled and sat on the edge of his nest. She placed her hand on his back and began to tap. Pat, 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 She hummed the same lullaby, the same gentle melody that had traveled across generations and now across the stars. Kel's eyes grew heavy. His ears relaxed and folded down against his head. Within minutes, he was asleep. Finally, Yuna went to Myra. The oldest cub was sitting up in her nest, watching Yuna with an expression that was hard to read. "That was strange," Myra said quietly. "What was strange?" "The tapping. The singing. On our world, predators do not do such things. They hunt and kill and eat. They do not make prey feel safe." Yuna sat down beside her. "Humans do," she said. "We have done this for a very long time. It is how we help our children sleep." "Your children are predators too." "Yes, but even predators need to feel safe sometimes." Myra thought about this. Her golden eyes studied Yuna's face, looking for lies or tricks. She found none. "Will you do it for me?" Myra asked. Yuna nodded. She placed her hand on Myra's back, feeling the soft gray fur beneath her palm. She began to tap. Pat, 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 pat. Something happened then that Yuna did not expect. Myra reached up with one small paw and took Yuna's other hand. She held it against her cheek, pressing her face into Yuna's palm. "Warm," Myra whispered. "Your hand is warm." Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She just kept tapping, kept humming, kept being present for this small creature who had decided to trust her. Myra fell asleep holding her hand. In the security room, Horath was shaking. He had watched the whole thing through the cameras. He had recorded every second of it. His mind could not process what he had seen. A predator soothing prey. A hunter singing to the hunted. Hands made for killing being used for comfort. It went against everything he knew about the universe. He watched the recording again. And again. And again. The tapping. The humming. The way the cubs relaxed under Yuna's touch. The way their fear melted away like snow in sunlight. He thought about his own childhood. He thought about the nights he had spent shaking in his nest, too afraid to sleep because the darkness might hide monsters. He thought about how much he would have given for someone to tap his back and tell him everything was okay. The humans were monsters. Everyone knew that. They were the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. Their history was written in blood. Their bodies were built for violence. But this human, this Kim Yuna, had just done something that no Vareni had ever done. She had made 3 frightened children feel completely safe. Horath saved the recording and sent it to Ambassador Torval. His hands were still shaking as he typed the message. "You need to see this," he wrote. "I do not understand it, but I think it is important." He was right. It was more important than he could possibly imagine. Ambassador Torval sat alone in his office, staring at the screen in front of him. He had watched the recording 17 times. He had counted every tap, every hum, every gentle movement of the human's hands. And still, he did not understand. His species had lived in fear for millions of years. On their home world, there were predators everywhere. In the forests, in the waters, in the skies. Every shadow could hide death. Every sound could mean danger. The Volreni had survived by being afraid, by running, by hiding, by never, ever letting their guard down. And here was a predator, sitting with his children, touching them, singing to them. And they were sleeping. The door opened, and Horath walked in. The security officer looked tired. He had not slept since sending the recording. "Ambassador," Horath said. "You wanted to see me? Sit down." Torval pointed to a chair. "Tell me everything you know about this human." Horath sat and pulled out a small tablet. Kim Yuna, 38 years old. Born in a place called Seoul, on Earth. She served in the human military for 15 years. She was trained for combat, for piloting small ships, for survival in dangerous environments. Her records show she was very good at these things. A warrior, Torvald said. Yes, but she was never sent to war. The humans stopped fighting large wars many years ago. Instead, she was assigned to peaceful missions. Guard duty. Escort work. Eventually, she was sent here as a cultural liaison. Torvald's ears twitched. A warrior who never went to war. A predator who never hunted. And now she takes care of children. Yes, Ambassador. Does she know she is being recorded? No. She does not know she is being studied at all. She believes she is simply doing her job. Torvald looked back at the screen. The recording was paused on a moment where Myra was holding Yuna's hand against her cheek. His daughter, his fearful little girl who jumped at shadows and cried at loud sounds, was pressing her face into a predator's palm. Play the recording again, Torvald said. The part with the singing. Horath pressed a button and the video started. Yuna's voice filled the room, soft and low, humming a melody that Torvald had never heard before. It was simple and gentle, like water flowing over smooth stones. What is she singing? Torvald asked. Our translation systems have analyzed it. It is called a lullaby, a song meant to help young ones sleep. The words, when translated, speak of a bright moon watching over children, a guardian keeping them safe through the night, wishes for peaceful dreams. Predators do not sing to their prey. No, Ambassador, they do not. Torvald was quiet for a long time. His mind was trying to fit this new information into everything he knew about the universe. It was like trying to force a square piece into a round hole. It did not fit. It could not fit. I have studied humans for 30 years, he finally said. I have read about their wars. I have seen recordings of their violence. I know what they are capable of. They have killed billions of their own kind. They have destroyed entire cities with single weapons. They are the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. Horath nodded slowly. But I have also seen them do things I cannot explain, Torvald continued. I have seen them run into burning buildings to save strangers. I have seen them give food to enemies who tried to kill them. I have seen them adopt children from other species and raise them as their own. He pointed at the screen. And now I have seen one of them tap my son to sleep. A predator's hand on prey's back, and the prey falls asleep feeling safe. What does it mean, Ambassador? Torvald shook his head. I do not know, but I intend to find out. Over the next month, Torvald watched every recording from the nursery. Every night, Yuna would perform what the cubs had started calling the Goodnight Tap. She would go to each nest, sit on the edge, and tap their backs while humming her strange earth song. And every night, the cubs would fall asleep faster and sleep more deeply than they ever had before. But it was not just the bedtime routine that fascinated Torvald. It was everything else. He watched Yuna play with the cubs. She would get down on the floor with them, crawling around and making funny sounds. She would let them climb on her back and pretend to be fierce riders on a mighty beast. She would tickle them until they squealed with laughter, and then she would gather them in her arms and hold them until they caught their breath. He watched her teach them things. She showed them how to fold paper into the shapes of birds and flowers. She taught them songs from Earth, simple rhymes about rain and sunshine and animals. She helped Myra practice her reading and cheered when Kel solved a puzzle and clapped when Bryn took his first steps without falling. He watched her protect them. Once, a loud alarm sounded on the ship, a false warning about a hull breach. The cubs panicked, screaming and running in circles. Yuna dropped to her knees and pulled all three of them against her body, covering them with her arms. She held them tight and spoke softly until the alarm stopped and their shaking slowly eased. A predator, using her body as a shield for prey. A hunter, standing between her charges and danger. A killer, whose greatest instinct seemed to be to keep these small creatures safe. Ambassador, Horath said one day. The cubs have stopped being afraid of her. I know. It is not just that they tolerate her presence. They seek it out. When she leaves the room, they ask when she will return. When she is with them, they stay close to her. Bryn has started sleeping in her lap during rest time. I know. How is this possible? Our entire biology tells us to fear creatures like her. Every instinct, every cell in our body screams that she is dangerous. How can the cubs simply stop listening? Torvald thought about this question for a long time before answering. Because children are smarter than we give them credit for, he said. They can feel the difference between a predator that wants to hurt them and a predator that wants to help them. We adults have learned too many rules, too many fears. We cannot see past what we expect to see. But children can see the truth. He turned to face Horath directly. The truth is that Kim Yuna is not our enemy. She is not a threat. She is something our species has never encountered before. A predator who has chosen to be a guardian. A hunter who has decided to protect instead of hunt. What do we do with this information, Ambassador? Torvald looked at the screen one more time. The recording showed Yuna carrying Bryn on her hip while Myra and Kel walked beside her, each holding one of her hands. They were laughing at something she had said. They looked happy. They looked safe. We share it, Torvald said. We share it with everyone. The Galactic Coalition Council met in the Great Chamber of Station Prime, the largest space station ever built. 12 species had sent their representatives to this meeting. They came from worlds of ice and fire, from planets of endless oceans and endless deserts. They had different bodies, different languages, different ways of thinking. But they all had one thing in common. They were all afraid of humans. Ambassador Torvald stood at the center of the chamber, feeling very small. The other counselors towered over him in their floating seats. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had bodies made of rock or crystal or liquid metal. All of them were watching him with curiosity and suspicion. Ambassador Torvald, said the High Counselor, a being of pure light named X. You have requested this special meeting to share information about the humans. Please proceed. Torvald took a deep breath. His ears were flat against his head, which was a sign of nervousness in his species. But his voice was steady when he spoke. I have been working with a human for the past 3 months, he said. A female named Kim Yuna. She was assigned to care for my children during our diplomatic mission. A murmur went through the chamber. Several counselors exchanged worried glances. You left your offspring alone with a human? Asked Counselor Vreth of the Skethany. He was a serpent-like creature with green scales and yellow eyes. His species was known for being paranoid and suspicious. That seems very dangerous. I thought so too, at first, Torvald admitted. But what I have observed has changed my understanding of humans completely. I would like to show you a recording. He pressed a button and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. The image showed a small room with blue lighting. 3 Velruni cubs were lying in soft nests. And next to them, sitting on the edge of one nest, was a human woman. The council watched in silence as Yuna began to tap. Pat pat, pat pat, pat pat. They listened as she hummed her gentle lullaby. They saw the cubs relax, saw their eyes close, saw them drift into peaceful sleep. When the recording ended, no one spoke for a long moment. This is a trick, Vreth hissed. A deception. The humans are trying to lower our guard. They want us to trust them so they can strike when we are not ready. A trick? Asked Counselor Doom of the Gathery. He was massive, nearly 3 times the size of any other being in the room. His species lived on a high-gravity world and had bodies like walking mountains. What kind of trick involves singing children to sleep? The humans are clever. They have studied us. They know our weaknesses. Our weakness is that we like lullabies? Doom made a rumbling sound that might have been laughter. That seems like a strange weakness. Counselor Vreth makes a fair point, said another voice. This was Counselor Mean of the Lithori, a crystalline being who sparkled like a diamond in the chamber's light. Humans are known for their deception. They lie to each other constantly. They even have entertainment that celebrates lying and manipulation. How can we trust anything they do? I have considered this, Torval said. He pressed another button and more recordings appeared. These are all the recordings from the past 3 months. Every interaction between Kim Yuna and my children. I invite any of you to watch them and find evidence of deception. The recordings played one after another. Yuna playing games. Yuna teaching songs. Yuna comforting crying cubs. Yuna protecting them during the false alarm. Yuna sitting quietly in the corner, just being present while the children played. Hours passed. The council watched in silence, looking for tricks, looking for hidden agendas, looking for anything that would confirm their fears about humanity. They found nothing. She does not know she's being recorded, Torval said. She acts the same way whether anyone is watching or not. This is not a performance. This is who she is. But why? Counselor Mean asked. What does she gain from this behavior? Resources? Power? Status? What is her motivation? I asked my daughter the same question, Torval replied. Myra asked Kim Yuna why she did not eat them, since predators are supposed to eat prey. Do you know what Yuna said? The council waited. She said she did not want to. She said humans can choose. They can choose to hunt, or they can choose to protect. She chose to protect. Impossible, Vreth said. Predators cannot simply choose not to be predators. It is biology. It is instinct. It is the law of nature. Perhaps, Torval said. Or perhaps we have been wrong about what predators are. He walked to the center of the chamber, looking up at all the counselors around him. I have studied humans for 30 years, he said. I have seen their violence. I have read their history of war and destruction. I believed I understood what they were. I was wrong. Humans are not predators who learned kindness. They are creatures for whom protection is an instinct. When they see something small, something helpless, something in need, their first thought is not how to hurt it. Their first thought is how to keep it safe. You speak of one human, Vreth argued. One single individual. How do you know all humans are like this? Because of the tapping, Torval said. The council looked confused. Even Doom, who had seemed amused earlier, was now listening carefully. The tapping that Kim Yuna does. The humming. The lullaby. She did not learn these things from any manual or training program. She did them without thinking, automatically, because her mother did them for her. And her mother's mother before that. And so on, going back thousands of years. Torval's voice grew stronger. For countless generations, human parents have tapped their children's backs to help them sleep. They have hummed songs of safety and protection. They have stood between their young ones and the darkness. This is not learned behavior. This is instinct. This is what humans are, at their deepest core. He pointed to the recordings still floating in the holographic display. My children have never slept better than they do under the protection of a human. My daughter, who has always been afraid of everything, now walks through the ship holding Yuna's hand. My son, who used to hide from strangers, now runs to greet Yuna when she enters the room. My youngest, who cried at every shadow, now falls asleep in a predator's lap. Torval looked around the chamber at all the different species. All the different faces. All the different fears. We have been afraid of humans for a long time, he said. Perhaps it is time to ask ourselves if that fear is still necessary. Perhaps it is time to see them not as predators to be avoided, but as protectors to be welcomed. The chamber was silent. The counselors looked at each other, at the recordings, at the small Velrani ambassador who had just challenged everything they believed. Finally, High Counselor Dex spoke. "What do you propose, Ambassador Torval?" Torval smiled. It was a small smile, uncertain but hopeful. "I propose an experiment," he said. "I propose we invite more humans to work with our young, not as soldiers or warriors, but as caregivers. Let them tap our children's backs. Let them sing our children to sleep. Let us see if my experience is unique, or if this is truly what humanity has to offer." The debate that followed would last for many hours. But in the end, the vote was close, and the experiment was approved. The humans were coming, and this time, they would not come as conquerors or threats. They would come as something entirely new. They would come as guardians. A human crafted a hunting helm for a broken cub, and the pack accepted him back into their ranks. Part 4. The Hunt. The Hunt. Full moon rose over the sacred hunting grounds like a pale eye watching everything below. The forest stretched endlessly in all directions, ancient trees reaching toward the sky like the fingers of sleeping giants. This was where Varka had proven themselves for thousands of years. This was where many had died. Ren stood at the boundary line, looking into the darkness. He wore the helm and carried a spear that Kelra had given him. It had belonged to his father, who had died in a hunt years ago. The weight of it felt right in his hands. Behind him stood the pack. 50 Vorkai had gathered to witness this moment. Vareth was there, his face showing nothing. Sura stood beside him with her arms crossed. Kelra was at the very front, her claws digging into the ground as she fought to stay still. Taiho stood apart from the Vorkai, at the edge of the human territory. He could not cross into the sacred grounds. He could only watch and wait. "Remember what I taught you," he had told Ren that morning. "The helm will help you see and hear, but your brain is your best weapon. Think, plan, do not rush." Ren had nodded. He had not spoken much that day. There was nothing left to say. Now, as the moon reached its highest point, Vareth raised his hand. "The hunt begins." Ren walked forward into the forest. The darkness swallowed him, and he did not look back. The first hours were the hardest, not because of danger, but because of fear. Every shadow seemed like a threat. Every sound made his heart pound. The helm showed him the heat signatures of small animals hiding in the bushes, birds sleeping in the trees, insects moving beneath the fallen leaves. But no thornback. The thornback was the most dangerous predator in these forests. It was as large as a Vorkai, but twice as heavy, covered in thick scales with sharp spines running down its back. Its claws could tear through armor. Its jaws could crush bone. Adult warriors had to fight in groups to bring one down. No one expected a cub to face one alone. But Ren was not like other cubs. He moved slowly through the forest, using the thermal vision to scan ahead. He listened to the sounds around him, feeling the vibrations from the helm when something moved on his blind side. He remembered everything Taiho had taught him about tracking, about patience, about using his advantages. As dawn broke on the first day, he found tracks. Large, deep prints in the soft earth, claw marks on the bark of trees. The sour smell that Kelra had described to him. A thornback had passed through here recently. Ren followed the trail. The forest grew thicker and darker as he went deeper. The trees here were older, their branches blocking out most of the light. Even during the day, it felt like twilight. Perfect hunting ground for a creature that relied on ambush. On the second night, Ren found the den. It was a cave hidden behind a wall of thorny bushes. The thermal vision showed a large heat signature inside, pulsing slowly like a sleeping heart. The thornback was there, resting, waiting. Ren did not attack immediately. That would have been stupid. Instead, he studied the area. He memorized the terrain around the cave. He counted the rocks, the trees, the gaps between bushes. If the helm failed, he would need to know every step by heart. He set his trap carefully. He dug a shallow pit and covered it with branches. He positioned himself downwind so the creature would not smell him. Then he waited for the thornback to wake up. Hours passed. Ren did not move. His muscles screamed for relief. His empty stomach growled. But he stayed perfectly still, barely breathing, eyes fixed on the cave entrance. Then the beast emerged. It was massive, bigger than Ren had imagined. Its scales were dark green, almost black, and the spines on its back gleamed like metal. Its eyes were small and cruel, scanning the forest for prey. When it opened its mouth, Ren could see rows of teeth designed for tearing flesh. For one terrible moment, he wanted to run. Every instinct told him to flee, to forget about the hunt, to accept that he was not meant for this life. But then he thought about Taiho, about his mother, about all the years he had spent being told he was nothing. He thought about the helm on his head and the spear in his hands and the choice he had made. He was not going to run. The thornback stepped forward, and its front leg fell through the hidden pit. It was not deep enough to trap the beast, but it threw off its balance. The creature stumbled. Ren charged. He aimed for the spot behind the front leg, where Kalra had told him the scales were thinner. His spear struck true, sinking deep into the flesh. The thornback screamed, a sound so loud it shook the trees. It spun around, one massive claw sweeping through the air. Ren ducked, but not fast enough. The claw caught the side of his helm. Sparks flew. Something cracked. The thermal vision flickered and died. Suddenly, Ren was blind on his left side again. The world went dark and confusing. Just like before, panic rose in his chest. He stumbled backward, trying to get distance from the beast. The thornback advanced, blood dripping from its wound. It was angry now, hungry for revenge. Ren's mind raced. The helm was damaged. He could not see heat anymore. But the sound system still worked. He could still feel vibrations. And he had memorized the terrain. He closed his good eye. It seemed like madness. But with his eye closed, he could focus entirely on what he could feel. The vibrations in the helm told him where the thornback was moving. Left, right, coming closer. He counted the steps in his mind, mapping them against the terrain he had memorized. The thornback lunged. Ren moved. He dodged to the right, exactly 3 steps where he knew a large rock would be. The thornback crashed into the rock, its momentum working against it. For 1 second, it was off balance. Ren opened his eye and threw himself at the beast. He pulled the spear free and stabbed again, higher this time, aiming for the neck. The blade found its mark. Hot blood sprayed across his fur. The thornback tried to fight back, but its movements were getting slower, weaker. Ren held on, driving the spear deeper, refusing to let go even as the creature thrashed. Finally, the beast fell. The ground shook when it hit. Dust rose around them. The forest went silent. Ren lay on top of the dead thornback, breathing hard. Blood covered everything. He could not tell how much was his and how much was the beast's. His arm hurt, his ribs hurt. The damaged helm hung crooked on his head, but he was alive. And the thornback was dead. He had done it. He had completed the first hunt. As the sun rose on the 3rd day, Ren dragged the thornback's body out of the forest. It took hours. The beast was heavy, and Ren was exhausted. But he did not stop. He could not stop. Not until everyone saw what he had done. When he emerged from the tree line, the pack was waiting. 50 Vorkai stood in silence, staring at the young cub who should have been dead. He was covered in blood and dirt. His helm was cracked. His fur was matted and torn. But he was dragging a thornback behind him, a thornback that he had killed alone. Kalra made a sound that was half cry and half laugh. She tried to run to him, but tradition held her back. Not yet. The Alpha had to speak first. Varus stepped forward. His amber eyes looked at the dead beast, then at Ren, then at the damaged helm. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then, slowly, the great Alpha lowered his head. It was the gesture of acknowledgement. The gesture that meant Ren was no longer a cub. He was a hunter. He was pack. One by one, the other Vorkai followed. 50 heads bowed to the young hunter who had been thrown away and had fought his way back. At the edge of the clearing, Taiho smiled. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wet. But he smiled, because Ren had proven them all wrong, and nothing would ever be the same again. A human crafted a hunting helm for a broken cub, and the pack accepted him back into their ranks. Part 3. The Challenge. They came on a gray morning when clouds covered both suns. Taiho was in his workshop when he heard the alarm from the colony's border station. He ran outside and saw them standing at the edge of human territory. 12 Vorkai warriors, tall and powerful, their fur thick against the cold. They carried spears and wore armor made from the bones of great beasts. At the front stood the largest Vorkai Taiho had ever seen. His fur was black as night, marked with scars from many battles. His eyes were amber and burned like fire. This was Vorith, the pack alpha, leader of all the Vorkai in this region. Beside him stood an older female with silver fur and a face that showed no emotion. This was Sura, the keeper of laws. She was the one who remembered all the ancient rules. Her word could change the fate of any Vorkai. Taiho walked toward them alone. The other humans in the colony stayed back, watching from windows and doorways. They were afraid, but Taiho was not. Fear would not help Ren. "You are the human," Vorith said. His voice was deep and rumbled like distant thunder. "The one who has been meddling with things that do not concern your kind. My name is Taiho, and I have not been meddling. I have been helping." A growl passed through the group of warriors. One of them stepped forward, claws extended, but Vorith raised a hand and the warrior stopped. "Helping?" The Alpha's eyes narrowed. "You have been feeding a dead cub, giving him shelter, giving him false hope. This is not helping. This is cruelty." "He is not dead," Taiho said calmly. "He is alive and standing in that shed behind me. Would you like to see him?" Sura spoke for the first time. Her voice was cold and sharp like broken ice. The cub called Ren was declared incomplete at the age of 4 cycles. He could not see properly. He could not hear properly. He could never complete the first hunt. By our law, he ceased to exist. His name was removed from the pack records. His mother was forbidden to speak of him. Your law is wrong. The words hung in the air like smoke. The warriors tensed. Even Vorith's eyes widened slightly. No one spoke to the keeper of laws like that. No one questioned the ancient traditions. But Taiho did not look away. Your law says that a hunter must have sharp senses. But it does not say those senses must be natural. My people were born weak. We have no claws. We have no fangs. We cannot see in the dark or smell prey from far away. But we learn to make tools. Spears to extend our reach. Traps to catch what we could not chase. Machines to help us see and hear and do things our bodies could not do alone." He pointed at the warriors and their weapons. "You carry spears. You wear armor made from bones. Are those things part of your bodies? No, they are tools. You use them because they make you better hunters." "That is different," Sura said. "Is it? Tell me why." Sura opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. For a long moment, she said nothing. Taiho could see something working behind her cold eyes. She was thinking, truly thinking about his words. Vorith stepped closer to Taiho. He was so tall that the human had to look up to meet his gaze. "You speak well, human, but words do not change facts. The cub is broken. He cannot hunt. That is the truth. Then let him prove you wrong." The words came from behind Taiho. Everyone turned to look. Ren was walking toward them. He wore the helm. The thermal lens glowed red over his blind eye. The sound sensors blinked softly along the sides. He walked with his head held high, not shuffling or cowering like he used to. He looked like a hunter. Behind him, moving through the trees, came Kelra. Her face was pale beneath her fur. She knew she was breaking the law by being here. But she came anyway, because this moment would decide everything. "Mother," one of the warriors pointed at her. "You have violated the law of exile. You have spoken to the dead. He is not dead." Kelra's voice rang out across the clearing. "He is my son. He has always been my son, and I will not pretend otherwise anymore." Vareth looked at her with an expression that was hard to read. There was anger there, but also something else. Something like respect. Ren stopped a few meters from the Alpha. His one good eye met Vareth's gaze without flinching. "I have made kills," he said. "Small ones, but real ones. With this helm, I can see heat. I can hear sounds. I can feel movement from all directions. I am not broken anymore." "A few small kills mean nothing," Sura said. "The first hunt requires you to face a thornback alone. Those beasts have killed adult warriors. A cub with a machine on his head cannot possibly survive. Then let me try." Silence fell over the group. The wind blew through the clearing, carrying snowflakes between the standing figures. Vareth turned to Taiho. "You built this thing for him. You have given him this false confidence. Tell me, human, do you truly believe he can complete the first hunt? Would you stake your life on it?" Taiho looked at Ren. He saw the fear hidden beneath the brave face. He saw the hope that had grown over the past weeks. He saw a young person who had been told his whole life that he was worthless, now standing up to demand a chance to prove everyone wrong. "Yes," Taiho said. "I would stake my life on it." Vareth studied him for a long time. The Alpha's expression was unreadable. Then, slowly, he turned to Sura. "Keeper of laws, is there anything in the ancient rules that forbids the use of tools in the first hunt?" Sura's jaw tightened. She clearly did not like where this was going, but she was bound to speak the truth about the law. "No," she said finally. "The rules speak only of completing the hunt. They do not specify how." Vareth nodded. Then he looked at Kelra. "As the mother of the cub, you have the right to petition for a trial. Do you wish to do so?" Kelra stepped forward. Her voice was steady despite the tears on her face. "I petition for my son to be given the chance to complete the first hunt. I ask that he be judged not by what he was born without, but by what he can do." Vareth closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, his decision was made. The petition is accepted. At the next full moon, the cub called Ren will enter the sacred hunting grounds. He will face a thornback. If he succeeds, he will be recognized as a full member of the pack. If he fails, he looked at Taiho with those burning amber eyes. If he fails, both he and the human will be exiled from Horkai territory forever. They will be forbidden to return on pain of death. Taiho nodded. "I accept." Ren nodded too. "I accept." Vareth turned and walked away without another word. His warriors followed. Sura lingered for a moment, staring at Ren with an expression that might have been curiosity or might have been hatred. Then she too disappeared into the forest. Kelra rushed forward and embraced her son. She was crying openly now, holding him like she would never let go. Taiho watched them and felt the weight of what he had done settle onto his shoulders. He had bought Ren a chance, but it was only a chance. The thornback was a deadly creature. Ren would have to face it alone. The full moon was 14 days away. They had 2 weeks to prepare for the most, Important hunt of Ren's life.